Getting some cabinets into your drawing is pretty much the first thing you're going to be doing when working in Toolbox. But after you've done that and got everything laid out the way that you want the project to be built, you got to start putting together some drawings to send off to your customers or out to the shop. Now, these drawings can be as detailed as you want to get them. That's what's great about the software. Some companies have specific standards or certain things that they need to show in their shop drawings. Others don't need to be as detailed. Toolbox is already set up with a lot of those details that you're usually going to want to see in your 2D drawings. So you're going to get a lot out of just the basic setup. Now, let's go ahead and jump into our next exercise and learn how to use Toolbox for a professional-looking set of shop drawings. Now, because these products that we've drawn are all 3D, it makes it a little bit difficult to add some of the AutoCAD objects that we want to put into some of these drawings. So we're going to start off by going into the Microvellum palette, and under the Draw tab, you're going to find the tools for 2D drawings. Now, it's good to have a standard process or some kind of rules to follow when you're doing this. You don't want your drawings to be scattered all over the place inside a model space here. Now, there could be something that you want to set up in your template. Give yourself some specific drawing areas to draft in. But for right now, we'll just keep it simple, and just some basic alignment is a good way to start. So let's first draw a polyline, just selecting that point on our 3D wall, or make sure your ortho's on, or use your polar tracking to make sure that's straight across an X. Select our Draw 2D Walls plan view. Select the two walls that we want to draw. Now pick that base point. And because all these cabinets have been associated to these walls, they're going to be drawn along with it. And let Toolbox take over and start creating some 2D drawings. Now, because we're drawing in a 3/8 scale, we have a lot of this, I don't know, I guess you can call it clutter going on with our drawing here. That's not what we want to see. Now, if you try to fix this just by going down to the scale list and changing it to like 1/2 inch or 3/4, it's still not really what we want. What you'd have to do now is go back into each one of those products and have them be drawn at this current scale. But the easiest thing to do is just go ahead and delete those 2D objects altogether and just start over. Now hold off on doing that because this is the time where it can get a little confusing when you're working with both AutoCAD and Toolbox commands. Now that we have some 2D drawings in there along with 3D products from the Microvellum Toolbox, we want to make sure we're using the correct ones when we're making some of these modifications. Because these 2D drawings were created from the AutoCAD part of the software, we want to use the AutoCAD erase to get rid of these drawings. Don't use the Microvellum erase from the palette. You'll get rid of the drawings, but you'll also lose your products from the project. And that's not what you want. So just be careful when you're doing that. So here is the AutoCAD erase. Now that we're in the correct scale, when we redraw the plan view of these walls, it looks a little bit better. Still, we got some overlapping product description, so we might want to go through there and clean that up. You can do that locally, or you can also do that in the global variables. I'm going to show you inside of the product first. Just going into our prompts and now selecting to show 2D drawing options and unchecking our display product description. You can see now we have that turned off when we redraw the 2D plan view. Obviously, that's going to take a long time to have to go through each one of those products to do that. So a much faster way to do it is by going into the globals and making that change there. We'll find this global variable under our general settings into the shop drawings. There we have our display product description. Just uncheck that box. And now all those products that were linked to that variable read that it's no longer on. So it's not going to draw when we go back into these products. Make sure when you're redrawing the selected products, you're selecting the item number. Now you can see what happens when we select it. It doesn't look like we're actually selecting anything because we're on that 2D drawing. But Toolbox still recognizes it. If you just pan over to the left side here, you can see that 3D product is selected. So now, after turning off that global variable, it looks a little bit cleaner without some of that product description, but we still have a lot of these dimensions for each product that we might want to also turn off. So let me show you how you can do that by also going back into the global variables and control the way that those dimensions are coming in. So back under the same area under our 2D plan drawings, going down to find our plan with base point. We have that set up for our base, tall, and uppers. And then by selecting inside of there, we have that pull down menu. Here you have the options for them to come in on the back side of the product, the front, or just turn them off altogether. So we'll do that to our base cabinets. And then we have a couple uppers. Let's do that to those as well. Back into our drawing. Let's redraw a few of those selected products. This time we're just going to do a window. And then anything that has an item number, will get captured and redrawn. Now you can see it's cleaning up that drawing a little bit. Obviously, we would want to do that to all the cabinets, but for sake of time, I want to get into drawing some elevation drawings. So we're going to move on. And starting off with placing this elevation in the right spot, we're going to draw a polyline and just make sure that it's aligned with that 2D wall. This time under the 2D drawings, select the Draw 2D Wall Elevation. And now make sure that we're selecting the 3D wall. It won't work if you select the 2D wall. It doesn't recognize that it's an actual room component of this project. And now for the base point. And now we'll get some 2D elevation drawings going. So this is all coming in from the data inside of the product. These are called 2D drawing tokens. So some of these details like the description of the parts, even the handles and the grain indicators, all 2D drawing tokens inside of the product. And these can be customized and turned off a bunch of different ways. We're going to go through some of those ways right now by going inside of the product, also at the project level, and take a look on how we can control some of the way that these 2D drawing tokens are showing up. Before that, let's draw another 2D elevation of our second wall. We'll call this one Elevation B. Now, the start of this wall, I want it to be aligned with the floor of the first wall we drew. So before you select any point in model space, just hover over that corner and then pull the cursor over to the right. Make sure that we see that dotted line. And then that's going in a perpendicular direction. And then left click to place that elevation. Okay, so there's a few more things that we'll probably want to clean up on this elevation drawing too, similar to what we did to the plan view. And also similar to the plan drawings, we could do that inside of the product or at the project level in the global variables. But I want to go in order here. I want to finish up the drawing first before we make any other changes. So let's use another one of these tools in the microvellum palette. This one is called the Draw Hatched Return. So this gives a good representation of some cabinets on another wall. You have the option to select the cabinet type. So first off, going with the base cabinet, picking our height, we got 35 1/4, 4-inch toe kick height. We're going to change our depth. The right-hand option, this is not the way that the cabinet's facing, it's actually the side of the cabinet. So that might throw you off. Don't think that it's going to be facing the right-hand side. It's going to be the right-hand side of this cabinet. Pick the place to draw the section, and now we have our hatched return. Do the same thing for the upper cabinet. Here you can see some of those settings change. We have different options for us, like height above floor, the valance height, if we wanted to do anything with that. Just make sure we have everything set up correctly and do the same thing. And because it recognizes the height above the floor, we're going to pick this corner. Now over to elevation B. This is going to be really simple. We're just going to change the side of the cabinet that's showing. It remembers all the same settings. Again, just picking the corner of our wall and placing that hatched return. So that already looks a little bit better, a little more detail. You can see kind of what's going on. There may be some other things that we want to turn off though. So let's take a closer look at these elevation drawings, see some of the things that we want to do to clean them up a little. First thing I want to show you is how we can change the location of some of these item numbers. Go into the prompts of the base 2-door cabinet 101. And then we're going to check that box to show item numbers. And here you can see all the different prompts inside of this product. Now those values are in red, so that means they're coming in from either the project wizard or the global variables. And I can tell you they're coming in from the globals. They're not in the project wizard. So like we've talked about before, we don't really want to do something just locally at the product if it's something that we want to have consistent throughout the project. So item number location, that would probably be something you'd want to change in the globals. I want to point out here is the countertop dimension. Now some of the Toolbox products use different settings inside of the software to control where these dimensions are coming in from or where they're being located. So for this countertop, this one's actually located under the Toolbox setup and then into the product drawing setup. You can see here we have our 2D drawing options. So this one's actually looking to the dimension above the product. So there we go. That's how to do that. We would redraw the other countertop to get that looking the same way. Similar to the way that the item number works for our 2D plan drawings, also selecting a 2D elevation item number recognizes that you want to redraw that actual product. And because there are so many things that you can do to customize these drawings, I'm going to show you where we can go inside of our global variables to make some of these changes, and of course also inside of the product. We're not going to change everything on this one, but at least give you the idea of where you need to go and some of the things that you can do. So let's go into our project specification group, into our global variables, and this time we're going to dig into the 2D elevation drawings. These variables here are determining where the dimension is coming in on these 2D drawings. We go to the elevation width dimension offset base. That's currently set to 12. This formula, just a conversion formula, so it's fine. We can stomp on this one. This is just looking to what region you're in. So once you've defined your region, you don't need to worry about these conversion formulas anymore. Set that to 16. Hit OK next to the text box. Every time you enter something, always hit OK. Now to see some of these changes that we just made, rather than selecting each product, we can use our redraw 2D walls command. Select that 2D wall elevation, and now the wall plus all the products on that wall will redraw. You can see there how the dimension lowered on our base cabinets. Okay, now over to elevation B. So on that tall cabinet, we have our finished end dimension. I don't need to show it on the left and right side. This one will probably be better to do at the local level, since we don't want to turn off that dimension completely on finished ends. So that's just the easiest way to do that, is just selecting to turn off the left end dimension. Now, if we go into our countertop and try to turn off a dimension there, you'll notice we don't have the option. Countertop product isn't set up with that. And when it comes to countertops on 2D drawings, I personally don't like to add them at all. I think it just clutters up the drawing too much. So what I like to do is draw in my own countertops just with a 2D rectangle and then dimension them however I want. If there needs to be an item number, you can come up with another way to show what item number it actually is. The next exercise, I'm going to show you what to do when you have a product that's been associated to a wall. It's going to automatically show up on the 2D drawings. So what can you do to remove that and have just all the other products appear? Of course, we could have just not selected it when we first drew the 2D wall, but this is just another way to do it. Now let's make sure that we have our select entire product on. So when we select these 3 countertops, we're not selecting just an item number or something, right? We're selecting the whole product. Okay, now they're selected. You can just hit that delete key. That's an AutoCAD erase. And now we've got rid of those countertops from our 2D drawing. The products are still there inside of this project, so we don't need to worry about that. But now the next step we need to do is remove that wall association. So we've talked about wall association before. Now how do we remove it? Because if we redraw these walls again, that countertop's just going to show back up. So let's go under the Modify tab and Modify Room Components. There you see we have our Remove Wall Association from Product. All you need to do is go find the product. 3D products that we drew in from the library. Select the countertops. And this is where you do want to select the actual product. Toe kicks, why don't we do the same thing to the toe kicks? Let's get those out of our 2D drawing, since we can do a similar thing, just draw some rectangles to represent those kicks. And then once you're done selecting the objects, just hit enter. Now that association has been removed, we can go back into our 2D drawings. And we're just going to delete those drawings of the toe kick. Redraw our 2D walls again. We'll just have to select one at a time. First select elevation A. Just going through the process of it redrawing, but showing you at the end of this, we don't have our countertops or toe kicks showing up anymore. And then this would be the point that you can use some of those AutoCAD skills that we've learned and start adding some rectangles or some other things that are representing countertops and toe kicks. The 117 is to the end of the cabinet. We'll add another inch, make it 118, hit tab, and 0.75 for the height. There's another rectangle to represent that countertop. We can do the same thing for our toe kicks if we want. For now, let's just go back into our microvellum palette and use some more of our 2D drawing tools. The next one is our Draw Product Sections. Here, we're just going to start off by selecting the product that we want to draw a section of. You can select that 2D elevation drawing. You can also select the actual product. And we're just going to scroll down here and place that 2D section drawing directly below. This time, we're going to draw a cross-section of that upper cabinet. So go back into the microvellum palette, draw our product sections again, and select that upper. You'll notice that we have some different settings as you're prompted to draw this 2D section. I typically just leave the section type as a cross-section. The distance in X from the product origin That could be something that you may want to change if you want to cut it maybe a little bit closer to the edge or further away. That's controlling where that cutting plane is. You also have the option to pick a cutting plane. So if there was a polyline that you had drawn in your drawing, you can also do it that way. As far as the direction, just whether or not you want it facing left or facing right, and then hit OK. Now placing it at this same selected point that we had our base cabinet, and the upper draws based on the height above floor. All right, so this is the point of the video where I talk about how important it is to have your autosave set up. As you start working with more 2D drawings and cross sections, there's a lot of resources being used by the software, so Toolbox may get a little bogged down. And to be completely honest, every once in a while it may crash. Now, being a longtime user, it was something we kind of had to deal with. There are certain things you want to make sure that you have set up as far as the autosave and some other things that you can do to recover your drawing, and that way you don't lose everything you've already worked on. But for now, let's just make sure we have our autosave set up with a save location we can easily find. So if something does happen, we can always just go back and recover this autosave drawing. So we're going to go into our drawing options. Then under the Open and Save tab, make sure you have that automatic save checked, and then however minutes you want in between saves. And then now browsing to the location of where we want these drawing files to be saved in. I'm just going to put this one on my desktop, call it Autosave, MV. So now we have our new automatic save file location. Let me just be sure to hit OK. I'm going to cancel mine. I already have mine set up. So now we can get back into the drawing and pick up where we left off. So just back to this product section, I want to show you that this is a live section. Anything that we change inside of the product will update in this section drawing. So you can see here as we adjust our shelf quantity, it automatically redraws in our section drawing. There is an option under the AutoCAD settings too. If you don't want to automatically redraw, you can be prompted and asked if you want to redraw the section. If you're looking for that, it's under the Toolbox Setup, Options, and the AutoCAD tab. Now a section for the tall cabinet. See, when we drew that one, because of the cutting plane, we didn't actually see the shelves. It was cut off right at the division. So we can delete this one and just redraw it. Now picking that tall cabinet again and selecting a new distance from X for that cutting location. And there you can see we have our adjustable shelves now. Now, one other thing you can do when you're wanting to show some additional details on your drawings, so we can do a dynamic product image. Just selecting whatever product and now picking a point in model space. You get this nice dynamic image of the product showing an exploded view with all the parts listed out for you. I mean, really, if there was just one product that needed to be built and I printed this out on a drawing for someone building this in the shop, really, I'm not sure what else they would need. A couple more dimensions maybe, and that's about it. You are able to control how some of these images appear in the drawing. Going into the prompts and show flat shot options. A lot of different things that you can do in here. So just by unchecking our section view and redrawing this product, eliminates that section view from the dynamic image. And that could also be set up at the project level or even inside of your template. So anytime you draw a dynamic image, you can have that section drawn or not, or customize it however you like. And that's the basics of using Microvellum's 2D drawing tools. There's going to be more videos where we go deeper into 2D drawings, like working with custom drawing tokens and annotations. But for now, hopefully that helps give you the tools needed to put together an accurate and professional set of shop drawings. That's it for now. I'll be back in the next one to keep showing you things that are going to help streamline your process.